Camera should kick in just a sec. So yeah, we got EKA here as the Norse in the red. And in the blue, we've got Alundra. So our players facing off for the second time today. EKA a little bit quicker on the storehouse this time. Alundra straight onto the hunt. Actually going to go for another ox cart here as well. He's managed to fit that in. I don't know how he's managed to do this, but he has. That's phenomenal. Just Babylonian things, man. Crazy good macro. So I don't know what he intends to do with that next ox cart. Probably go straight on the wood. Now his first spear is going to be a little bit slower because of that. But in saying that, EKA's going to try and squeeze in a dock to start with. And Alundra, it's going to be a bit unlucky not to see this. EKA actually aggressively scouting with both scouts. Typically Norse players will send one to aggressively scout, one to just macro scout or place a barracks or whatever he's trying to do. So EKA's actually moved this just in case he did get scouted there. But it looks like Alundra might find this anyway. So Alundra is going to see this. So regardless of which spot he stayed in there, Alundra was going to eventually find out. Alundra trying to send spears to interrupt this. EKA's going to have to try and just sustain through this. Already getting loom, and probably adding another villager over here just to fight spears better. Well, he's also going to try and fish, which is a bit risky. It's going to slow down his age up. And Alundra is going to potentially be able to snipe the fishing boats, because this is all shallows, so you've got to keep the boats moving. Alundra going to try and deal some damage to the villagers, but the spear's going to run into a wall of hands there. Alundra trying to cut down villagers first and foremost, or at least interrupt gathering and force EKA to keep villagers under TC because they're so low. They're just a liability to have anywhere else. Alundra's eventually going to want to punish one of these fishing boats. So EKA's going to have to shift these guys somewhere else, maybe the wood. Bit of a bait here. A couple of spears are going to fall here. Alundra really only achieving a bit of damage. Not actually slowing down EKA's economy at all here. EKA is going to be pop capped here. He's got to finish off that longhouse. Alundra not having any issues with that. In fact, he's overmade houses and going to go for the water himself behind this. So he's in a comfortable spot actually. He's interrupted a little bit of gathering here from EKA, and he might just get a villager this time, although he's not focusing down the lowest one, which is a little bit unfortunate. But again, he does interrupt all that gathering. No more spears for him for the time being. With what he's got, he's delaying a lot of gathering. EKA does have room for age 2 here, so he is going to go for that. To 3 boats already, so a big commitment. 300 wood, but that's going to pay back in terms of food eco now. He's not going to need to actually gather any food on the land for a little while, especially if he gets a 4th boat. But Alundra, his own dock's finished. Not far off age 2. Maybe he's going to go for a fairly quick buy-in. He's going to go for a boat himself. Alundra trying to take out the storehouse. Probably best off just trying to focus down the scouts once again. He's going to try and harass one of the villagers there. EKA going to go double dock. Has got a bit of gold on the way here. Hasn't spent any either. He hasn't gone hunting dogs or anything. Alundra still in age 1. Gonna go for a ziggurat now. Quite aggressively, quite greedily placed just to the front of his base like that. But at the same time, it's under no pressure at the moment. Alundra is going to keep fishing hard through this. EKA's still adding boats. He's up to his 5th fishing boat on the way. Just now going to start on the stone. Was going to finish the barracks, but instead he's going to send the 2 scouts to go and scout the map. Don't know why he hasn't finished that off. Especially because... I was going to say he could cancel it and get the wood for a longhouse, but he's already got the wood. Net lures already. Big fishing eco here for EKA. Alundra. Bound to have seen this already. Yeah, he's got his scout over here. So scouts actually... Prior to recent nerf, scouts are actually really strong against boats. And they still are quite strong because of their health pool. So, no Byron yet for Alundra. He still needs a little bit of gold. EKA just now has scouted this, and he's got 2 docks to Alundra's 1. So he's going to have an easier time defending with warships here. He's got the longship on the way. Alundra getting more gold, but he's still gathering stone for a town center here. And I think if he had to put this into just wood and gold for more docks and more production, he could have forced EKA off this already. EKA's going to try and repair through this. Ooh, is he going to be able to do it? Longship's going to be able to start picking off units here. Alundra just trying to do as much damage as he can. He's now got a Byron on the way. A little bit short on gold to queue up another one just yet, but he is focusing down the longship while this is going on. So he's starting to pull ahead there. EKA bringing his scouts into the equation. And the Byron, not as strong of a ship as the warship. It is the longship. It is cheaper. 323. It's 375 and 25. So more damage and health on the longship. Does take longer to train. Does cost more though. Alundra adding a Lancer already. We'll try and take out this longship or take down one of these fishing boats here. A lot of food in the bank for Alundra. In fact, he probably is best off just spamming stables here. Quick, get the Lancer in the fight, man. EKA going for a second TC and another barracks. Alundra going for his second TC. He's got a range and a stables, and he's already got that barracks too, of course. He probably just mainly wants to mass up Lancers and a couple of bowmen here in this position. So EKA, this is quite a scary setup he's got here. He's got a couple of warships, got some boats to repair them, got some infantry. But Alundra, Lancers and Bowmen are a great combo, just to really mess with the Norse mass infantry style. Possibly could do with another Byron here because we're down on warships overall. But the Lancers are quite a handy unit to have in this situation. Doesn't want to overextend with them, but they're not going to take a huge amount of damage from all the throwing axemen there. Alundra doing a bit of fishing. Possibly could go for another stables here. So populations 39 to 41, favouring EKA for economy. Overall populations pretty much even, slightly favouring Alundra. Spear champion on the way, which will be handy because it gives them the health to tank the bowmen while also dealing a little bit more damage against the lancers. I'm in a nice spot here, I think. Might actually have enough to break EKA on the water here. It's a lot of lancers. A couple of bowmen are going to be really handy as well. EKA having a retreat, trying to focus down individual lancers here. Not quite finishing off that stables, which is really unfortunate for EKA because might be all he needs just to pick off a couple of bowmen at the back here, really make this easier for himself. So one of those longships goes down, and the front line for EKA is also being thinned out as well. So Alundra really making it happen here today on Babylonian. EKA having a retreat with all of his fishing. And yeah, he still hasn't finished the stable, so right now that's going to be easy for Alundra to take this down. It is a little bit weaker in this position. I don't think the Pierce armor actually... Well, I think it's got negative all armor types while it's still being produced, that you just don't see it. So EKA going to have to reshuffle his water eco. Adding raiders now, he's getting his stables and a range back at home. Alundra can honestly, I think, just add another stables here and just spam lances. Probably gather a little bit less gold, get a bit more food and wood at the moment. And he should be in a very dominant position here. Though EKA, if he gets this water eco going again, he can really recover from this quite quickly, I think. He's got plenty of wood to spend on production buildings, but he also needs to gather a bit more food here. Perhaps even cut his wood gathering a little bit, because being Norse, your armies are pretty much always going to be food gold centric, even if you are getting a few skirmishes. But just to deal with this many spears, and there's not a huge number of bowmen here. I think EKA really needs to pick up that food eco, but at the same time he's able to squeeze in age 3 really quite tight eco here. Alundra floating a lot of gold, and I think if he had that in other resources right now, he could be at 120, 130 population and looking to make a really big push. Gonna add an armory now. So all Alundra has to do is come over here and punish this. Brought forward some villagers. He's not queued up age 3 yet though, so I don't know why he's got these guys here. He can't go for workshops. Oh, he's going to start towering up. EKA's going to have to shift over towards this gold. We'll try and gather back over here. Well, I'm just not aware about any of this gathering. A few raiders in the mix now here for EKA, so he's going to start trying to raid. Hence the name. 64 to 61. EKA training a hell of a lot at the moment. Alundra are going to need to add some houses. We need to get some spears and some lances to clean this up. He's cleaned up the water eco here of EKA's, so that'll really be handy. Norse, like I said, quite food and gold dominant, so a lot of investment in food eco on the land now for EKA. It's going to get a little bit unsafe as the game goes on. The raiders ultimately going to be hemmed in there. So 57 to 61 for Vil counts. Alundra's just going to go for it. You can pop cap EKA here. This will be very handy. But he wants to engage with everything on the army here. A lot of lances in the mix. Alundra's got a couple of towers here, which is quite handy. Even though he's retreating and losing a bit of value out of this, he can even add another tower or two while this fight's going on. And just tie up more attention from EKA, but he needs to keep training through this. He's got nothing in production at the moment. And he could even have a couple more production buildings being started right now, which could be big. Age 3 for EKA is kicked in now, so he's got access to horsemen. So these guys really going to turn things around. Lancer's no longer going to be dominant. And the push for Alundra really being thinned out here just doesn't sustain because he didn't have any upgrades. Eventually EKA fitting in some horsemen, fighting at home. And I think Alundra tried to overdid it with the bait, probably took a little bit too much damage. EKA with a bunch of bowmen now. So EKA's off the water. Gonna start a market eco as well. So this map, notorious for this sort of crazy quick macro pacing to it because it's quite open, but large enough that you're quite safe. Resources quite spaced, but you know, everything happens quite slowly. Except actually getting onto fishing or getting onto markets. Alundra recovering pretty quickly here. He needs to get a little bit more wood, a little bit more production, but he's doing well at the moment. EKA starting to really add some upgrades, getting temper. From Mass Melee Norse, it's a must-have upgrade, but he's got an awful lot of skirms here, so... And a few bowmen now. Both our players playing quite mixed in terms of composition. Temper for Alundra he's already got. He's getting shield rim now, which is not common to see this before Scale Mail against Norse, just because typically Norse are playing quite ranged averse. Adding bowmen now, but ultimately skipping Lancers, while EKA adding a few of those in the mix. Sorry, skirmishes. And Alundra trying to stave off mixed Horseman Raider with Lancers, which is not... I mean, yeah, Horseman Raider with Lancers, which is not the best of ideas. He ideally wants to have Champion on these guys and have Spears with Champion engaging too. So Alundra still in Age 2. And the Norse rating starting to make a big difference here. Alundra 68 to 83 on Eco. EKA's starting to wall himself in as well. If he can wall in this market line, it makes it very tough to stop him in the late game, because then he can just start walling himself up around the rest of the lake and transition into late game quite easily. Alundra probably wants to get this Ox card over here, get another one over here, and have these guys not have all that travel time. So the raid overstaying its welcome there. Do get a couple of villages and a fishing boat, I think, but a couple of the raiding cavalry there being taken down. But the horsemen can fight extremely well against lancers, particularly without the champion upgrade. So Alundra's going to want to bring spears with this. Is good control here by EKA, just to thin out the cavalry of Alundra at the moment. EKA's starting to creep ahead on overall population. He's at nearly 180 at the moment to Alundra's 135. And the spears, now this is what's going to make EKA have to run for it. Alundra really needs Age 3 though, because it's a lot of horsemen starting to get out in the field and a lot of bowmen, so he really needs to have access to champion upgrades on lancers and bowmen of his own. Also possibly even use mounted archers around the map for some hit and run. But, you know, forces the Norse to have to make raiders instead of horsemen, because then you can actually fight against them with your lancers. Skirmishers, bowmen, seeing what damage they can get done. Berserkers starting to be produced here by EKA as well. Very expensive, quite handy all-round unit. Seer Raven being used at the moment by EKA. He just wants to scout out the map, make sure there's nothing funky going on. Ultimately, he did have to back off there, but he's got a lot more in the bank than Alundra. He's really prepared to go to Age 4 here, while Alundra is just deep in Age 3. Still only got Age 2 upgrades. Looks like EKA hasn't got any ranged armor at the moment, so he's just starting to get that now. The Raven being sent all the way around the map just to figure out what Alundra's got. In fact, EKA's even got this barracks over here, middle of nowhere proxy barracks, just to keep an eye on the map, see where his opponent's at. He can possibly even just send in Berserkers here, or add to stables and send in Berserker and Horseman later on. Really mess with his opponent. Is Alundra going to let the conversion happen? No. Yeah, that's a bit unfortunate. So we've got Chariot production here for Alundra. These guys have got like the most range in the game. All the skirmishes have been picked off. I was going to see what their range was. Yeah, so Babylonian Chariots are like the only unit that actually outranges anti-ranged units like slingers and skirmishers. other than siege, you know. Alundra going to try and chase. Just a handful of raiders here. Well, yeah, a pair of berserkers is all Eka needs over here to really be a little bit of a pest. Pick off a couple of villages, pick off a couple of houses. And just slow down your opponent's economy. As well as his attention, which is also very important. Alundra taking out a bunch of villages here, but Eka, 80 vills at the moment, and he's got a huge amount in the bank. He's already bought age 4, so it won't be too difficult for him to try and sustain through this, although Lancers raiding the gold mine, this is a great idea by Alundra, considering how gold hungry these berserkers are. Eka's only going to be able to get so many of them. Oh, there's one gold gatherer still left alive there. Alundra, this is a really nice fight here actually, if he can keep up production through all this. Front line's starting to thin down a little bit though. He needs to try and get those chariots out of there. So his production's restarting. The Lancers overstaying their welcome. They probably just needed to get over here towards the wood or finish off that gold gatherer. But Eka's struggling for wood and gold a little bit still. He's got a bit of food in the bank. Well ahead on population at the moment. And reinforcing units here are being picked off by the berserkers, which is not great for Alundra. He wants to just get these guys in and kill berserks. But GG, Eka takes the game.